Hello and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box. Now, when Frank Zappa had a top 40 single, everyone, including Frank himself, was somewhat surprised. Because if there was anyone who was destined, because of the forces who control the music industry, not to have a top 40 single, it was Frank Zappa. But Valley Girl did become a top 40 single. And in many cases, it was some members of the public's first introduction to the wide, wonderful, and at times eclectic world of Frank Zappa music. Now, what I find kind of funny about this is that Valley Girl wasn't necessarily different from a lot of the shorter compositions, the shorter songs of Frank Zappa. Now, obviously, his longer instrumental or orchestral or jazz types of numbers, you could understand why those wouldn't become singles, but a lot of other singles that were short, sharp, to the point, and had scathing, memorable, and very witty social commentary and observations, you would think that in a fair world and in a free society, people would want to hear what he called musical information. Last, they did not, but when it comes to Valley Girl, they certainly did. Now, again, this was sociology, and a lot of Frank Zappa's shorter songs are sociology. I mean, in France, that's geopolitics and anthropology. Why does it hurt when I pee? This is about medical advice. Dancing Fool. Again, it's about the anthropology of pop culture. You've got religious commentary with things like Catholic Girls and Jewish Princess, and the list goes on. You have Thingfish, an entire Broadway style musical about HIV/AIDS, race relations, the dynamics of the stage, and corruption and politics in the music industry. None of those were really hits in the top 40 sense, whether in the album sense or the single sense. But Valley Girl was huge. And I think maybe it's because it had something that it was fun because Frank's daughter Moon did a lot of the vocal sort of in her impression of a typical Val or Valley Girl. And I think there was something about it that was kind of amusing and heartwarming to the people who would have heard it on the radio. It wasn't a huge radio hit, but it was played a bit. And it showed that the ability to satirize sort of ran in the family. And the idea of sort of poking fun at the pomposity of people who take their own microcultures too seriously is something that we can all engage in. And it was also around this time that Moon and later Dweezil began to do some of the talk show rounds with Frank Zappa. There's a great episode of Moon accompanying her father Frank on a Letterman interview series, and you saw, well, they're both very witty and they both have heads on their shoulders. I think it was also cathartic for people because radio interviewers and talk show hosts, they would always go, well, Frank, instead of he just, whenever he was, promoting an album or a tour, rather than talk about the incredible music, so why did you give those names to your kids, Frank? And now people could say, okay, right, these are actual people, and they're actually really intelligent kids, far more intelligent than average. We can speculate as to why, but there you go. It was a family affair, and it was very accurate sociological observations, so much so that it seems like everyone nowadays, or almost everyone, speaks like a valley girl. So they left the shopping centers and they entered the banks and the halls of Congress. Spooky. As always, like, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Take care.